At the time the CEDTAP program was launched, a variety of local government agencies and not-for-profit organizations across Canada were attempting to address the lack of adequate employment opportunities at the community level. The CEDTAP program was created to provide support to these initiatives. CEDTAP was directed and co-founded by Dr. Ted Jackson, who based the program at the Centre for Community Innovation at Carleton University's Faculty of Public Affairs and Management. So I thought a good way to start our conversation would be if you could tell us a little bit about the background and the history of CEDTAP, how it all got started 10 years ago.
Well, it came out of the interests of the foundation in particular, and the foundation had been funding a series of standalone projects with universities around the country. So one of the motivations of the foundation was to design a program that actually put money in the hands of community groups where they could have a choice. They would not have the barriers of geography or language. They could hire people from any part of the country to advise them on their local initiative.
In what you've written, you talk about the ideological and methodological differences across the leading CED groups. And I'm wondering, has that changed over 10 years? Is the CED sector fundamentally different today?
I think it's quite different. But what has really changed are a couple of things. One is it's a bigger sector, it's organized, it has its own association, its own voice, several voices actually. The alliance between actors in Quebec and actors in the rest of Canada is quite strong and functional. It has engaged government, it has engaged the corporate sector in a way that it wasn't at all close to 10 years ago.
So would you say that the sector now is more defined than
I'd say it's more defined. It's got more profile. Governments at all levels use the term CED. They may interpret it a little differently in various places, but they are putting some money into it in a way that they didn't before.
Wondering if you can share a couple of stories with us of successes of CEDTAP grantees.
We supported nearly 500 projects across the country, and there were wonderful, innovative stories and heroes, local heroes in almost all those cases. So, there are many stories, more stories than we ever had a chance to tell. But what interested us was when a local initiative or local innovation would be pushed out and replicated to other sites in other parts of the country. That was what we considered, excellent success beyond the local success that we often had in supporting innovation in a single organization. So one of the examples is the Toronto Renewable Energy Cooperative, which set up a big wind turbine, mobilizing a lot of people and organizations and resources in downtown Toronto, and really brought focus and visibility to this whole issue of renewable energy. This is certainly at least 10 years ago. So people in BC got very interested in that model and that group, and so we also then supported it was called TREC group to go over to BC and to, in fact, be advisors. And then TREC came back and an Ontario Association of Renewable Energy was formed, and we funded that. And so the story really is about a single initiative, very powerful, very energetic, in this case quite visible publicly, which then was replicated elsewhere in 2 sites and kind of lifted up to an association level so that it actually affected many sites in Ontario later on in the process. I think that's pretty effective grant making.
So from those stories, how did you know that these grants were actually being successful? How did you measure success, and what were the indicators that you were looking for?
Well, we had several operational methods that we were using. We had people required to produce reports on what they were doing. It was very output-oriented. We had staff. For much of the decade, we had regional staff in different parts of the country. They would go and visit these projects often. And we had technical assistance providers who were able to give us information on what was going on. But towards the end of the project, I would say the last 3 years of the CEDTAP decade, we got very interested in evaluation research and ways of evaluating CED organizations and their impacts. So, you know, what is it? What's the change strategy that the community organization is following? Is the strategy actually working? Are things happening in the way that they actually proposed that they would happen? You know, is the change going on? I think there's a lot of a lot of important use of assessing how community organizations do their work, what is their theory of change, and then what does the evidence tell you about whether their theory of change is valid and actually succeeding. All of that to say that we're really, you know, we did a lot of grant making. We're now going back into the portfolio, even after CEDTAP's over, and doing some research on impacts and how to assess. What are some of the tools and how do they work in the CED sector? And we think this is quite important work.